Hi there, welcome. This is the Kelly's Astrology podcast, where you can find insight, guidance, and understanding through astrology. I'm Kelly, and I'll be your host.
Hey there, everyone, and welcome to another special episode of the Kelly's Astrology podcast. Today, I'm sitting down with my dear friend and colleague, Kira Sutherland, who is an Australian naturopath and a medical astrologer. Hey, Kira, how are you doing today?
Super good. I'm super good. I'm excited to podcast with you.
I know. I think we've done this like once before, but ages ago. So it'll be fun to catch up together. And I think today we're going to talk about the joys of the planets in regards to the houses in the chart. And this is a topic that just like was a game changer for me when I learned about it. What, has it been inspiring for you to learn about this topic? And I imagine you're using it with that medical focus in your practice.
Yeah. So again, it's not, originally I wasn't overly taught this, right? It's more of a Hellenistic traditional technique. So, I was trained originally as a modern astrologer. Right word? I don't even remember it anymore.
Modern, psychological, what we all did in the 90s and the 2000s.
But then you go back to all those beautiful traditional roots, especially for me doing medical. And so I love doing that blend. And the joys is so fascinating. I've been thinking about it a lot medically. I need to search more. People have written more on it. But I'm quite fascinated by this idea, or just how the planets, have their little joy or do their little action in certain houses better. Because your listeners might not know, but I'm obsessed with the house.
Yes, I know. You have such a passion for the houses, which is why this is such a great topic to talk about with you. And I know, so maybe we'll just explain the concept basically for everyone. So in traditional astrology, the focus is on the visible planets, the 7 of them. And one of the ways that we understand the quality of the nature of the houses and a little bit about the planets themselves is that each of those 7 original planets is said to have its joy, like its happiest in a particular house. And that's because that house is where there's like a real congruence between the planet's like natural expression and then the settings and the focus and the quality of energy of that house. So maybe we just run through.
But it's not the normal house rulership. Like if you go back to a natural chart, it's not their natural ruler, right?
Yeah, it's a different way of, a different mechanism of connecting like planets to houses for sure.
Like another place.
Yes, exactly. So in the joys of the planets through the houses, we have like Mercury having its joy in the first house. We have the sun having its joy in the 9th and the moon having its joy in the 3rd. We have Venus having her joy in the 5th and then Jupiter having his joy in the 11th. And then Mars and Saturn, maybe no surprise, Mars having its joy in the 6th house and Saturn having its joy in the 12th house. So it's a totally different.
Surprise? I'm curious.
What, with Mars and Saturn? I guess
maybe
because
we start with the bad boys first.
The bad boys. And a part of me was like, we can just focus on the Mars, Saturn, Venus, Jupiter if you want, because I find that such an interesting schema. I guess when you look at some of our older source texts, the original names of like the 5th house is Bona Fortuna, like good fortune. And the 6th house is like Malefortuna, like bad fortune. And then the 11th is like Bonus Daemon, like the good spirit. And the 12th is like the Malus Daemon, like the bad spirit. And so I think, because we already associate the 6th and 12th houses with maybe more difficult topics, more challenging settings, and then to have Mars and Saturn linked there, we start to see that. And then the same with Venus and Jupiter in the 5th and the 11th houses. Like the 5th and the 11th houses have more positive associations, more enjoyable connections, and they're associated with the 2 benefic planets via the joys of the houses.
I love that. I just love, there's so many layers you can go in astrology, right? Whether you first start learning it and then, we're into like well over 30 years, you and I.
Oh my gosh,
with the original same teacher.
Yes.
And there's just so many more layers, right? And all the Hellenistic and traditional that's really, what has it been, 10 or 15 years that it's really been a lot more translations, a lot more focus. It's like, there's so many. I just love that it's there are never ending layers, right? That like we're never going to hit the bottom.
Well, yeah, you're right. Because in the 1990s, there was a lot of like a big translation project bringing ancient source texts like into English and more widely dispersing them. And then it's taken that almost 30 years for that material to be disseminated and for people to be actively using it and working with it. Because there's definitely an experimental quality with it.
Yeah.
So yes, I mean, I've just finished teaching this more advanced perfections course, and I mean, the layers upon rabbit holes upon rabbit holes. It's like,
maybe I need to go take that class.
So many pieces, so many pieces.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah,
segue. Somebody just translated the Odyssey, but a female translated it for the first time. And it's turned into a slightly different story with a female translating it. Again, whoever interprets, the same with astrologers. We all translate things differently. I mean, it's direct translation. I'm not having to go with people that translate.
Absolutely. But even in the translation space, it's like that particular translator and their understanding of the material and the language. Yeah. Oh my God, we could go down so many rabbit holes here. Rabbit holes. I mean, so with
people
the
don't know us together.
I know. People like, where are these two going? So with the joys of the planets, like through the houses, one of the things I found really helpful was it helped me kind of understand maybe the structure embedded within the house systems more deeply and to go deeper with like why that house means what it means. Yeah. And so I guess there's a way of like understanding the 6th house through the lens of Mars, for instance. Or there's a way of understanding the 5th house. You know, one of the big things in traditional astrology is that the topic of sex is connected to the 5th house in astrology. Whereas in modern astrology, it's often associated with the 8th house. And part of this has to do with like that the bottom houses, like houses 1 through 6, are connected to fortune, the body, the kind of night sect. And so in the 5th house, we see like good things with the body, which includes pleasure, procreation, sexual intimacy. And then the 6th, we see like difficult things for the body. So we see illness and surgery, which I imagine is where you spend a lot of time with your work.
Spend a lot of time in the 6th house. Yes. And, you know, the traditional, it's the house of illness or disease. It's especially the house of acute illness, whereas the 12th gets more chronic illness.
Which makes sense.
Again, because they're opposite each other. And the way I teach it is the stuff you don't deal with that's happening in the 6th can, by opposition, like you don't deal with the stress of the 6th, you're going to end up in the 12th, which is being bedridden, confinement, hospital, institutions, like deal with the acute so you don't end up in the chronic. And as a naturopath, that's literally what, preventative health is definitely not a word that was ever used in traditional medical astrology. And I'm very aware of that.
Yes.
But the house of illness is it makes, I'm going to flip it a little bit. It's the house of hard work, right? Of service, servants. And in some ways, as a naturopath, and again, I look at everything through a spin of how can I make my health better? How can I help someone make their health better?
Yes.
I see the 6th house as the house where you got to do the hard work on your health. Otherwise, you do end up with illness and disease. So it's that trade-off. I don't want to say it's the positive side to the house, but it's a house where you got to get it going.
Yeah, there's like some constructive action that you can take to like nip things before they get worse. And I love that like acute versus chronic, because they are words that we use for Mars and Saturn all the time. Like Mars, acute, immediate, pressing, urgent, like right now. Whereas Saturn is like, delays or longer timelines. And that idea from a health perspective is something that's really chronic, something that's like set in, that is now going to be like a slower process to deal with or to remove, I guess.
Long term, it's father time, right?
Yeah.
It's literally, and Mars in medical astrology is literally inflammation. It's pain, swelling, redness. It's acute.
Yes.
It hurts.
Yes.
But it's fast, hopefully. Or it's, it happens quick. Hopefully it goes away quick. Depends on the rest of the chart. But whereas Saturn literally is under function, Mars heats things up, Saturn cools things down. But Saturn it's chronic, it's blockages, it's slowing things down. It makes things are a longer problem with Saturn. And so it fits so well. It just fits so well. Both of them.
It really does. And from talking with you with your health and medical background, has really deepened my understanding of Saturn in the 12th house. Like one thing that you always talk about for that is like the convalescence and the idea of
my favorite word.
It's like such a great description of the 12th house. It's not as scary as like isolation or institutions, but it really captures the necessity of choosing to be like in an isolated or secluded setting, going at a slower pace. So do you want to say a little bit about like the role of convalescence in like recovery or health? Because I think that is such a Saturn 12th house type of thing.
It is. And as far as I'm aware, and I definitely know Lee Lehman never corrected me, so I'm going to assume I had it correct.
She'd say something that
she would totally tell me, because I worked with her quite a lot over the last couple of years before she passed away, and which was so fun and scary for me because she'll just tell me what I'm wrong, which is great. But I'm like,
yes.
Saturn is the original ruler of sleep.
Yes. Okay.
Right. So because Saturn is to be still, to put a cast on if you break your arm, you put a cast on it. That's a Saturn application, right? You're making something not move.
Yes.
And so, because when we talk about sleep, everyone's like, oh, it must be the moon, or if you're using modern planets, they're like Inception, but it was actually like sleep. When you go to sleep, through the different phases of sleep, when you're in REM, your eyes are rapidly moving. Your body actually creates a bunch of chemicals that literally paralyze you from, you're not truly paralyzed, but they actually stop you from moving because otherwise the whole body would be flapping around like the eye.
In response to the REM.
So, like, you go back to the traditional rulerships of things. Once you really understand the human body and physiology, my favorite thing is figuring out why they gave things rulership. Like, that's somehow a little treasure hunt for me. So convalescence is the idea of you have, back in traditional medicine, before modern world, whatever, when we rush around doing everything, the idea was you were sick in an acute phase, and whatever your acute phase was, you actually should then times that by 3 for your convalescence. So if you were acutely sick for 1 week, you should then take 3 weeks, which is like a lunar cycle. Imagine that. And I'm sure that timing came through medical astrology and looking at critical days, which is another
of the moon.
Story in itself. You should take 3 weeks. I'm not saying you have to be in bed for the 3 weeks, but you need to be gentle. You need to be slower, sleep more. This is like this is before antibiotics, right? So the flu could literally kill you. So this is acute illness. Then you go to the seaside, to a sanitarium or whatever, which wasn't for like mental health. It was literally where you go take sun and ocean air and you rest.
Good food.
And we don't good food. We don't, we take time out of daily life to seclude ourselves. So that seclusion of the 12th.
Yes.
To rest for the body to truly recuperate. Because everyone's always like, oh, I'm never well since this. I'm never well. Maybe we push too hard. And there's modern life and commitments. But the body takes time to heal.
Yes. This is so fascinating. So the ratio is like, if you're knocked out with like the flu or a cold or some viral thing and you're down for the count for a week, then 3 weeks of like almost like reduced schedule or commitments. Like you don't go back to your sports, you don't go back to all your extracurriculars. Like maybe you've rejoined your family with some of your daily activities. Maybe you've had to go back to work, but you're not going out every night as well, kind of thing.
Yes. And if we push too hard too soon, that's where people go, oh, I came back or I got sick. It's like, it's literally Saturn going, I'm pulling you back because you didn't stay long enough in the 12th house.
In the stillness.
Rest, right? So Saturn, in traditional astrology, Saturn and Mars are your two malefics. But in medical, they're definitely malefics. But in the modern world, it's almost like we need to kneel at the altar of them more for good health. Is that a weird thing to say? I've never said it that way, but like we need to respect them more.
Yes. I agree. I think
they have things to teach us. They just have things to teach us. Go for it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm thinking even a little bit about Mars. Like, it's like the medicine that tastes bad, but is to your benefit. And whether that is like, a herbal supplement that your naturopath gives you, because some of those
never taste good.
They taste so funky. Or whether that is the prescription of like, you have to get off the couch after dinner and go for a walk for 45 minutes. Like
movement.
I often think with Mars, it's like, you might get the Mars experience either way. It can either be by something you chose in a proactive way, or now we have to take something more with more side effects, more intensity because we didn't do the action. And I think Saturn is, you can pay the 3-week convalescence, or you're going to be unwell off and on for months at a time if you don't do it. Or years.
Right. Chronic disease, chronic illness is years for some people.
You're absolutely right. Like this can be so long for people.
So to jump back to Mars, Mars is, everyone goes, it's your action, it's your drive, it's that, and Mars has a rulership over the muscle in some ways, right? Mm-hmm. Mars and Saturn actually rule protein and amino acids I'm going really medical here.
Love it.
Because they're structures, it goes part way to Saturn, but protein, and if we're talking, and I know some people are vegetarian, so I apologize that you're plant-based, but Mars rules like eating animal flesh and things like that, eating animal protein.
Like animal protein, yeah.
But there's Mars is like, Mars creates your heat, and in your body, the way we create heat literally is through our muscle, right?
Yes,
that's our thyroid. I'm not saying Mars was thyroid, but our metabolism is a very Mars thing. But sport often gets given to like the ninth house or, but all the fire signs, and I know I'm going signs on houses here, there's this actiony muscle thing going on with rulerships. But so I often say to people, Mars is often where we find the sport that we like. I correlate Mars and sport, right?
Yeah, like the sign that Mars is in.
Yes. Yeah. Well, your Mars is where you need to put in that action and drive, right?
Yeah.
And I use a lot of symbolism between like astrological rulerships and then what we have to do. As a naturopath, we're all about preventative health. So what should we do with it?
Yes.
And as a Mars ruled sun, of course.
Yes.
So I always say to people, how can you get your Mars on? Like, how can you use your Mars preventatively? Like, what sport do you want to do? And often by, sign and house, you can see the sport that will suit you or you'll fall in love with it. Because the problem is people don't choose sports. I should go and do this. But, you get these people with like Mars in, Taurus. And all of a sudden they're like, I've started lifting heavy weights. And they're like, never thought that would be me. And they're like in love with it. And you're like, it's that simple. Or
totally.
The pickleball obsession and, Mars in the 7th or something like,
yes. Like that social side
relationship, social sport, right?
Yes.
It's so Mars in the 6th. How did I get to where I'm at?
We were just talking about Mars and like preventative action and that like, I guess the influence of Mars on the 6th house. And, obviously most of us won't have Mars in the 6th house, but understanding the 6th house is like, there's a little bit of like, how do we take those necessary actions, I guess, coming out of the 6th? Yeah.
And I love Mars. Mars likes hard work. Like Mars can get there and do it. And then the 6th house is literally the house of service to others or however you want to word it. But can't we flip that? Or maybe this is me extending it But I flip it to how can we be of service to our own body? Because the sixth house is literally our physical ailments. So how can I guess Mars is going to cause inflammation in the sixth and acute illness, and the charts I do that natally have it there. They had a harder time with health, which is why they're seeing me. But Mars can get down and do some great work in the sixth. And to me, I see that relationship for Mars in the sixth with the joy. So for you, how do you see that? Because you're not doing medical.
Yeah, of course. I think the biggest part is that it like with the Mars sixth house, Mars having its joy in the sixth house, it really helps me understand like the essence of the sixth house. Like to your point, there's a quality of like activity or construction. Like what can you do that will help minimize the inflammation or the infection coming through? Sometimes, like when you're looking at the sixth, you might be like this based on the sign or if there are any planets there where there may be a tendency for inflammation or irritation. And then what can we do as like a proactive preventative? For sure. I think too with the 12th house, people often get so scared about the 12th house and they're scared of Saturn. And I think, no, like, have you ever been to a monastery or a convent? I grew up with a nun in the family.
Place.
And we spent a lot of time in like sacred, secluded, quiet, reflective places. And it's not a commentary on the religion itself, but these institutions of contemplation are incredibly restorative. And so I think shifting our understanding of the 12 houses is like important.
Yes. And I was reading even about places on Earth. I'm probably on TikTok, so excuse me. But about, sacred places that are known to be more healing.
Yes.
And often there are, whether it was the ley lines, whatever, we have whatever religion and then other religions build on top of it. But there's, those sacred buildings, but also sacred sites that are known for being
like geographic.
Healing.
Yeah.
But and often they're quite secluded, or it's near a cave, or it's in something.
Yes. Like at the top of the mountain, it's hard to get to.
Yeah. But there's something about, because everyone's like, oh, for your health, you need to go into meditation, or you need to, and depending on who you are, that may or may not be easy, but it's the seclusion and the quieting of the physical to get into whether it's the mental or the spiritual, or just to slow the body down and let it rest.
Yes.
That is part of the convalescence of the 12th, right?
Yes.
Yes, you can go in communion with whatever works for you, but seclusion is part of healing.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So,
I think that's really true. And when you look at many spiritual traditions throughout history, a part of a way of showing your devotion to a tradition was a period of seclusion or isolation or intensive contemplation that had you in this away from everywhere else place. So I think that's, really important. Yeah.
And if, again, I always look at through medical, but if you're ignoring things in your life, be it physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, whatever realm, if you're ignoring things and the universe is like, no, what often happens? We often get sick.
Yes.
Because we're ignoring how we feel, what we're, not even just physically, but emotionally, or like whatever. Something often happens to make us stop to actually assess what's going on. And it's like, the universe or your astrology throws you into that 12. It forces you to stop, to then reassess what's going on.
Yeah, this is so powerful. And I think like going a little further with like, the good fortune, bad fortune, 5th and 6th, and then the good spirit, bad spirit, 11th and 12th. There's a piece in some of the ancient astrology literature that like fortune was understood to be this thing that was like chance or kind of like a type of fate that was out of your control. Like, are you born with an autoimmune disease or some other congenital condition? That's totally out of your hands. That's like a 6th house thing. But what you do about that, like spirit is understood, and I'm referencing a little bit of like lot of fortune, lot of spirit, which these houses are like connected to in some ways. spirit was understood to be something that was an intentional choice. And so if we think about this in 6th, 12th house piece, 6th is like what happens to you. Like if you have an accident, that's like just sort of bad luck sometimes. But what do you do about it in response? Do you take the medicine? Do you do the rest? And if not, then we have to deal with the outcomes of that. And I think that's a bit of the 6th, 12th. It's also even the 5-11 flip as well. Like, the 5th house. Yeah, do you like the 5th house being the house of joy of Venus? It's like, what are the things that maybe just come a little easy to you or that are particularly joyful in this weird stroke of luck or randomness? And then how can we really intentionally strive to amplify those? And maybe I always think of 5th and 6th too as like a little more personal, whereas 11 and 12 is a little bit more collective or community oriented.
For
sure. So if you have your own private joy, that's your 5th house. And then do you find community or like-minded people in the 11th to share or grow or extend that in some way?
Wow. And is the idea of creativity more of a modern 5th house thing, or does it?
Yeah, I think the word creativity or even the concept of creativity, it is a little bit more of a modern thing because with Venus in the ancient texts, we do see art and beauty. So
I'm not giving Venus creativity. I'm talking about the 5th house.
The 5th
where does the definition of creativity go to then?
Well, I think it's a modern take on what might be the old school Venus influence. So that's where I was like, Venus has always been art, beauty, love, sex, pleasure, all those types of things.
Which are all forms of creativity.
They are all forms of creativity.
I love that 5th in medical is having babies, right? Not like the 5th house cups, what's happening in the 5th natally or by transit.
Yes.
We look to the 5th about fertility and things like that. And I love that idea because, and sex, if we're going traditional, I would always think sex is 5th house. And that is the ultimate of maybe not creativity, but creation.
Absolutely.
Literally having sex and having a little egg and sperm come together.
Yes.
That is literally phenomenal.
Yeah.
As far as
it's like magical.
It is magic, right?
Yeah. Like the fact that it happens at all, when people look into it, it's like the fact that it happens at all is quite amazing.
I know.
It's quite amazing.
And I love that for the 5th, right?
Yeah.
And we think of Venus, Venus is about fertility. If you go back into so many ancient cultures.
Yes.
And, Venus in the 5th is like the most positive thing we can see for it, especially in a female or assigned female birth chart. For having babies. Yes, we also, moon, absolutely. I can hear people's
brains. Of course. I mean, there's lots,
we're talking
moon,
about
Venus or Jupiter will all be helpful in the 5th house. Yeah. Absolutely.
And Jupiter's all Zeus, right?
Yeah.
Having many babies.
Baby making. I mean, that is back in the solstice.
Having babies with everybody, man.
Anyone he can. Under any circumstances and in any shape or form.
I'm drinking and I'm now thinking about all the animal.
Right, yeah. These are Greek myths,
So with
the, let's stay with the 5-11 Venus-Jupiter piece for a minute. Yeah. When you always read about in the older texts about the 11th house just being this really great house. And in some lists of rankings of the houses, the 11th house is listed 3rd as the 3rd best house after the 1st and the 10th, the two angular, more outgoing angles. Yeah. And then you get the 11th, and it's, the 11th is this sort of aspirational. We hear in modern astrology, it's like hopes and dreams and wishes. And it's a planet in the 11th is moving up towards the midheaven by that daily motion. And so we get this sense of what am I striving for? Or what is leading me? What is lifting me up? And there's something in the ancient texts from ancient Greece where they talk about the support that comes to you in sort of a very uplifting, blessed or benefic way that just is magic. Like I think of it sometimes like a fairy godmother thing. And I think about that as like a Jupiter. It's like the infusion of the essence of Jupiter into the structure or the framework of the 11th house in a chart.
I love that.
I love that. And then of course, everyone's own 11th house is different, but anytime you see like a planet in the house of its joy, or even a sign ruled by a planet on the cusp of the house of its joy, you get this sort of slightly more direct expression of that planet with those topics coming through.
Yeah. I still was my brain, which I loved hearing that. I was still thinking about fertility because the fifth is like, falling pregnant and all that stuff. But this 11th is considered the partner and what they bring to the fertility process. If we're talking about fertility.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? Because the 11th is 7th from the 5th, or what? How would I say that? Isn't it?
It's 5th from the 7th, the 11th.
Thank you.
Yes.
Fifth from the 7th.
It's like your partner's 5th house as described, by your own chart.
But it is 7th from the 5th as well.
It is 7th from the 5th as well.
But I know that's not really a thing. But anyway, my brain went to the wrong one. Sorry.
That's okay. I mean, it's the pattern.
It's the opposite, right? It's like if you think of that 5th and Venus as that female fertility. I know not everyone's female, but I'm just thinking about that. And then we have Jupiter. We have literally Zeus coming in as that opposite. I love that fertility, like Jupiter in the 11th is, kind of giving that idea. When we're looking at somebody's fertility chart, we're like, oh, their 11th house, their partner's coming in with Jupiter in the 11th. That's great for fertility as well. But like, we can also think of fertility as you creating things in life. It doesn't have to be about, a lot of people don't want to have kids, but it's conception of whatever, Venus, Jupiter, and the benefics. I'm just, I'm in the middle. We talked about doing this as a topic, and you lecture on this topic a lot. I'm actually later this year for the AA in the UK doing the joys, planetary joys in medical astrology. So I'm still in a lot of research, but we'll be talking about that. Right?
Yeah.
That's just like, I love when you talk about things that you connect even more, right?
Absolutely. Yes, totally. Like it's that sort of verbal processing piece of like, it's making sense as you're talking about it. Yes.
And then it fits that. And then it fits that. Welcome to astrology.
Two of the things that are really associated with Jupiter in ancient astrology, one is freedom. Like kind of like the way we think about freedom and Uranus in modern astrology.
Yeah.
Before Uranus, like all of that sort of freedom and authenticity was really a part of Jupiter. And then, of course, Jupiter is about wealth as well. And so there is something that you do see this in charts, like clients or famous people. When people have Jupiter in the 11th house, that is a great indicator for someone to sort of have enough financial abundance or security that they have more freedom of choice, if you like.
Oh, like that. I'm different to it in the second.
It's very different. Yeah. It's there's sort of this like
it's
amplified.
Bigger,
it's bigger. I mean, of course, if there's Jupiter links to the second, that's always still going to be helpful. But there's something, the 11th house is a much more favorable place than the second house is.
Yeah.
And
and it makes sense. Yeah. Because it's in its joy.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh, this is such a good topic, Kira. I know we're like, we have a few minutes left, but we could go forever. Is there anything else that you've been really enjoying, like working with or exploring with the planets and the joys and the houses kind of schema?
Oh, I'm just having so much fun looking at all the different levels. Because, when you research for a topic or studying a topic before you present on it, you go back to old sources, but I also look up kind of newer versions and like, where did all the information come from? But then I have to take it as a medical astrologer and, of course, traditional medical astrology texts. But I also bring in, I can't not bring in my lens of what I know about the body and what we now know about the body versus when the old texts were written. I'm not against any of the rulerships, and I agree with all that. But sometimes I think there's added innuendo or information we now know, but it always still fits, which is amazing. So trying to find, just the fun, like us just talking about that fertility. I mean, I knew all of that anyway, but part of me was I had forgotten about it as the joys as well.
Yes.
Just remembering and connecting. I love all of that, right? And sun in the ninth, we haven't gone there, right?
Yes.
Sun in the ninth, moon in the third, and that opposition. And I know it's, so much of astrology is about that opposition of those two houses and placements.
Yeah.
But again, just the power of that. Not power. I'm in so much awe that we figured out the universe like this. Like really,
Yes.
sorry, I'm going really big picture here. I'm in awe every day how they energetically put words to what they saw and felt and oh my God, it all fit. We know it all fits. We're astrologers, but the depth of how it fits. And then if you look at the human body and the cosmos, I mean, yes, we are actually made of stardust, right?
Yes.
Neil deGrasse talks about it. And of course, we're organized the same as the universe.
Yes.
What fucking magic, excuse my language.
I know, it's so true. And I think you're really tapping into something that when you get into some of the older teaching and some of the original philosophies in a craft that we practice today that's over 2,000 years old, the symmetry and the matching and the thoughtfulness that went into that, sun in 9, moon in 3, the house of God and the goddess. And, I think the third house is kind of underappreciated a little bit.
Oh my God, I was just thinking that.
Right?
It's magic.
It is. And when people say, oh, it's about language and writing, I'm like, well, that's because the moon in ancient astrology was a way of transmission and passing on light and knowledge. And people are like, but it's about short journeys. I'm like, that's because in ancient times, the moon was a planet of travel because it moved so frequently across the sky. And so,
you traveled. Usually you were traveling when the moon was bigger because it was safer, right? You could actually see what the frig was going on.
What was happening. Yes. And you were often traveling.
Literally.
I love that the two planets of divine knowledge, as was referred to as religion or the god and goddess, are connected to the places of travel because one of the main reasons you would travel would be for spiritual purposes or pilgrimage. Travel then wasn't like travel now. We didn't just pop on trips and go halfway around the world and come back again. It had to have a special purpose or a meaning, or it was timed to honor a ritual that was at a particular, time of year.
Yeah. And or I always have to take it back to health.
Of course,
Ninth house is often given, movement, and it's that voyage, and and part of that is the journey of doing physical exercises. I'm somehow stuck on physical exercise today.
I love it. Yeah, this is good.
And it's amazing because so many people in modern times, when life doesn't have enough meaning for them, they will often do big physical feats in exercise, almost as a spiritual journey for themselves. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes.
So they're
me? Yes, when people say, I've decided to run a marathon this year, or I'm walking the Camino Trail, and they take on a very intensive physical undertaking. Yeah, a quest. That's what it is.
They're questing. And people that do, Kel knows, I used to do really long distance triathlon, all day triathlon.
Yes.
But it wasn't, could I do it physically or not? Because if I trained enough, I can do it. But it's the journey of all the exercise and the journey of getting up every day. But then it's the journey, where do I have to go in my heart to finish this quest, right? And you will often hear people talk about whether it's climbing Everest, which we won't get into, or, walking the Camino. It's also about, what did I learn about myself and the meaning? I just think it's your own religion when you take yourself on a quest or a journey.
Yes, I know exactly. It's like a way of making meaning or self-discovery through that challenge, basically.
Literally through
the movement. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God, so beautiful, Kira. I know we could talk for days. Yeah, what else do you want to say about the sun?
The sun and vitality and who you are. The sun loves to go on that. Like, it goes on that quest to understand itself, and then the opposition of the moon and that intuitive knowing, and you learn yourself on a different level. And don't even get me started on the nervous system. Sport and sport actually creates neuroplasticity in the nervous system of the brain. And so this movement of the 9th actually creates health in the 3rd within our circuitry.
Oh my gosh. So beautiful.
I hadn't thought about that till now. I had, but I hadn't.
Yeah.
Like, I do 6th microbiome, digestion to 12th immune. And we know those are connected, but like movement of the 9th, neuroplasticity of the 3rd.
I love that. Oh my gosh. There's so many connections.
And the moon has part rulership over the brain, right? We always think of brain like Mercury, nervous system, but the moon, because of the fluid and the shape, moon has part rulership
and that
of
it's
the
like
brain.
Encased in like a wet sort of,
Sorry, I take everything medical.
No, of course. And I think people love to hear that. And so speaking of that, Kira, where else can people find out more about you? I know you teach in medical and health astrology. So let us know your website, what courses you might have that people can check out.
Yeah. My website and my Instagram are the same. It's Astrology of Health, or astrologyofhealth.com. So there's there's a ton of there's free downloads, there's a ton of free, all the podcasts I've been on are all linked, so you can spend hours doing medical, just listen to podcasts. But there's a lot of courses there as well. And at the big conferences, I usually, most of the time I get to go.
Yes.
So, yes. We'll be at UAC later this year.
Yes, in September in Chicago, where we will be actually together in person, which we're very excited about.
Yeah, we are very excited about. Yeah, so there's online stuff. My newsletter, if you sign up for my newsletter on the website, you'll get all because I only teach medical.
Yes.
This is kind of fun. I didn't realize how fun this was till recently. I get to teach for a lot of other schools because I just teach medical. I never teach anything else. So I can get these little lovely invites to teach at other schools, which is I love that.
Yeah. So you're always teaching, like guest lecturing in various places, but you also have courses in medical and health astrology. If people want to just go deep, they can just, astrologyofhealth.com.
That is it.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Kira. It was so fun to talk with you. I know I'll be chatting with you again real soon about other things in other areas, but we will sign off for now. So thank you again. And thanks for joining us. Yeah, let us know your comments and reflections below, and I'll catch you next time. Thank you so much. Thanks again, Kira.